Hello. Sorry. Is it on? We're good. Yay! We got the connection back. You know, it's good that doesn't happen that often. Yeah, I was yakking during the break, and I didn't get the music back. So what we'll go ahead and do is on the archive, you'll make sure you get all the great and important and wonderful stuff that I had to say. Because, of course, it was probably great, wonderful. Go ahead and talk to Mike, see what he has to say. So what we're going to do is play this RT piece. I want to make sure you get this because this China relations thing is just not going to stop. It's not going to go away. So let's go ahead and do this, and then we'll get all our technical issues taken care of.
Discuss U.S.-China relations. Raymond Latta, author of America in Decline. He's also a contributor to the Revolution newspaper and a longtime analyst of Maoist and post-Maoist China. I want to thank you so much for joining us today. So much to talk about with these talks, but first I want to ask you if they matter. It's kind of the same talking points you hear between the U.S. and China and have for a while. We know that they're kind of locked together in this economic song and dance. Is anything going to come out of these talks?
Well, I think that there's a lot of honeyed phrases being bandied about, but it's important for viewers to understand that there are escalating geopolitical and geoeconomic tensions between the U.S. and China, and those tensions are rooted in profound shifts in the world economy, alluded to by your previous segment. And this shift in the balance of power in the world economy is exacerbated by the economic crisis that kicked in 2008 and a faltering economy. And there's now intensifying and scrambling competition for energy supplies and raw materials. So this is really the backdrop for these talks, and the U.S. is seeking to reassert its dominance, and China is seeking to carve out a growing geopolitical, geoeconomic space in the world system, because China has emerged in the last decade as a major global economic power, is now the second largest economic power and the largest holder of foreign exchange reserves. And the U.S. is seeking to counter that, and has been, you know, through the reassertion, as I said, of its strategic dominance in East Asia, and by calling China to account for various economic policies that it finds injurious to its interest, while the Chinese are seeking to penetrate more deeply into various parts of the world, economically and geopolitically and militarily.
Couple things here. Who has the upper hand then? The United States, which has chosen to continue funding its military to the step of 6 times what China does, or China, which has invested more in infrastructure, and you know, the United States goes into a country, occupies it, China goes in and buys up all their resources. Who has the better strategy here?
Well, I mean, there's each of these powers, as I said, you know, the U.S. still remains the dominant power in the world economically. It's still the financial glue of the world imperial system, and it is still the political military guarantor of the contemporary world economic order, which, for the time being, is of benefit to the great powers. But China is posing a real strategic challenge, and in the Department of Defense surveys, or you look at the WikiLeaks, you see that the U.S. imperial leadership definitely regards China as a strategic competitor. And China, on the other hand, is pursuing its own strategy relative to the fact that the U.S. is still economically and militarily dominant. The Chinese, which I must emphasize, China is a capitalist society, a capitalist economy since the counter-revolution of 1976. It is an emergent imperial power, and its strategy is one in which it's A, seeking to expand and diversify its domestic economic base, especially technological upgrading. B, it's seeking to extend its international economic and financial reach. And C, it's seeking to enhance its strategic military capabilities, you know, building up its military forces and extending its regional ties in East Asia and beyond.
So then really quickly, and I'm so sorry to break in here, but we only have such a limited amount of time, then given your line of thinking, following that logic, is China the threat that some United States analysts and officials say that it is in order to justify more military spending, for example?
Look, the United States is seeking to preserve its dominance in the world, which is based on, wars and super exploitation and the control over people's lives. And China is an emergent imperial power, which, as I said, has a certain strategy. But right now, that strategy doesn't, lead them to direct showdown with the United States. But both of these powers, are doing things that are not in the interest of the people of the world. And I think when the U.S. talks about China, the U.S. mainstream media and the leadership, Obama, Clinton, their statements about being back in Asia or the U.S. being involved in an international struggle, battle for influence, as Clinton has said, with China. This is all about preserving their great power interest at the expense of the people of the world.
A lot more than just the sound bites that you hear at the podium at this summit. We'll have to wait and see, too, who has the upper hand economically speaking with the issue of the currency, China's currency being key on the table, as well as the U.S. debt and deficits. That was Raymond Latta, author of America in Decline. He's also a contributor to Revolution newspaper and a longtime...
Now, what I wanted to make sure that you guys understand is that this is going to be a new James Bond movie. And it's going to be From China with Love. This is the Cold War, or the corporate wars, the economic wars, or whatever war, to think that it's not going to be clandestine. I mean, it's going to be this espionage. We did it with Europe, and I remember when you had, what do they call them, members of parliament would say, United States, we know you're doing Carnivore and Echelon and all this surveillance stuff on transmissions and communications in Europe to get an edge on bidding for different contracts and doing whatever. You're using the United States surveillance community, your intelligence, the government, for corporate interests. Well, yeah. What did you think was going on? You didn't know that the United States government was a corporation, working for by the corporations? I give you Goldman Sachs. So this is going to get more and more intrigue. It's going to be more interesting as we get in, and you're going to have the 007 spy thriller born Jason Statham, whatever guys going in, where China is going to be the bad guy or heroes or whatever, as they're doing assassinations, as they get surveillance on, deals, communications, moles. It's all going to be about business. It's going to be about business interest. It's going to be about money. It's going to be about contracts. Other countries. It's going to be about deals. Who controls? We went through this during the Cold War. We went through this with the Soviet Union, the Eastern Bloc, the Iron Curtain, who's on what side. None of this just everybody gets to compete in a free market kind of thing. You know how much cheaper it is? I did this calculation. It cost $130. This is when oil first hit. It was $30, $40, and it went to $75. And people freaked out. Oh, it's going to break 100. Oh, my goodness. So what did we do? I said, I want to know how much it's going to cost us per barrel to go get cheap oil, okay? It was $130 in military spending, veterans benefits, disabilities from people that got from the Iraq War, just the Iraq. And I go like this. I said, and I don't know if I included Afghanistan at the time. It was $130 a barrel above the cost of the oil for us to go get cheap oil. Who does that benefit? The guys selling the oil. We're subsidizing them getting, that's how our oil got underneath their sand kind of crap. Well, this is going on worldwide right now, and China been doing this for thousands of years, and I think we're at a disadvantage, especially since we're the one that got the money lent to us by China. I got chickens. Oh, man. You guys think about it. We'll talk about more next week, because by this weekend, Monday might be interesting. You're going to be looking at the stock market and the meltdowns. I don't know how they're going to patch us over and what the spin doctor's going to do with the information in this meeting with China and U.S. now. But Monday, we may know a whole different world. Won't happen all at once, but it may just happen overnight. Uncovering the secrets and exposing the lies. That's what readers of freedomsphoenix.com get every day. Readers of freedomsphoenix.com are constantly provided the information that detail the real news between the lines of propaganda about government policies and the true relationship we all have with coercive governments. Learn the true condition of our economy, innovations and technological breakthroughs in energy, health, computer science, and space travel. Learn the truth well before it's admitted to in the lamestream media, the media that is so last century. Corporate media has evolved into nothing more than distributors of government propaganda, but we now have a fantastic alternative. FreedomsPhoenix.com provides constant news updates on the issues that affect our lives in the most important ways. Our liberty and our property are under constant attack, and FreedomsPhoenix.com provides the understanding behind the propaganda while encouraging the participation of our readers. Join us at FreedomsPhoenix.com. That's freedoms with an S, Phoenix.com. FreedomsPhoenix.com, where the revolution between the ears has already matured.